There are all kinds of sergeants in the United States Army, good ones, bad ones, strict ones, relaxed ones, all sorts of different types of sergeants that you possibly could have, will have, did have, do have, whatever in the United States Army. And I've got 10 different examples of types of sergeants that I want to inform you about. What's up, my friends? U.S. Army veteran Christopher Chaos, and we're talking about some different types of sergeants. Maybe you've experienced them, maybe you want to know what different ones to look out for. There's some good ones, some bad ones, all sorts of ones. And of course, there's more than just the 10 that I'm going to talk about. There's some examples of different types of sergeants that maybe you have had type of thing, and I want to hear about them in the comment section down below. So make sure to let me know what are some types of sergeants that you have experienced or seen. Before we get into the first one, smash that subscribe button. You gotta be subscribed and click on the bell and all that fun stuff. Be a part of that notification platoon so that way you don't miss any other videos about the United States Army to help you out. Whether you wanna join, you're currently in, or you're a veteran and you wanna be entertained with what's going on in the Army, hit that subscribe button. So let's get into the first one on my list of 10 different types of sergeants. First one is an easy one to kind of cover. That's the buck sergeant. You may have heard that term. Maybe you're someone who's in the Army and you've heard that term. That is a brand new sergeant. These are your types of sergeants that probably, an E5 we're going with. I mean, because some of these could be like E6s or E7s or whatever, but this one's probably an E5 sergeant. So you're early, new to being a sergeant. You graduated, your school, your NCO academy, you made points, and now you're a new sergeant, so you're getting your feet wet with what it's like to be that non-commissioned officer. These people are usually pretty new, so they don't know the ropes exactly yet, so it's still kind of new to them. They probably still have some friends that are like specialists and privates and everything, and they're trying to kind of disconnect from it because technically not really allowed to. They probably still do, which is pretty common kind of a thing, but they're not really supposed to hang out with those individuals, but they probably still have a lot of friends that are still specialists and everything. They're making some common mistakes because they don't know the ropes yet. They don't know how to do things properly. So sometimes they'll get cut a little bit of slack because they are a buck sergeant. They're a brand new sergeant, but they got to learn from those mistakes and they got to improve from that. They're also the sergeants that probably get stuck with some of the crappier stuff, right? You gotta do CQ, they need an NCO for CQ, they need an NCO for staff duty, they need an NCO to be in charge of this guard, force that's gonna be going and doing something. So these people get stuck with some of the crappier ones, and some of the more experienced sergeants probably don't have to worry about that, probably aren't as likely to get stuck with those crappier kind of taskings. They're also gonna be put through the ringer, right? Hey, this is a brand new sergeant, we're gonna put them in charge of this and that and whatever to test them out and let them get that experience. So, these buck sergeants have to go through the ringer a little bit. They gotta get that experience. They're gonna make some mistakes and everything, but hopefully it makes them better. Second one is that friendly sergeant, which can be good and sometimes it can be bad. This could be one that maybe, is just a really outgoing person, right? They want to be friendly with everyone. They don't like being that person that's just bossing people around. They want to be friends with everyone kind of a thing. And sometimes that can be good and sometimes that can be bad. Sometimes it can be bad because, people might take advantage of that and be like, oh, Sergeant so-and-so is a softie, so we can use that to our advantage and, get out of things or work it in our way to take advantage of that person. And that sucks when that happens, but sometimes that can be the disadvantage of being that friendly sergeant. Some ways it can be good. I knew, I had a sergeant when I was in Korea. I was still a specialist and he was a sergeant. He was actually my section sergeant, and he was a very friendly guy, and I actually hung out with him and type of thing. You're not supposed to, but I did. And I think with that is what it kind of built, was that because I had this friendship with this sergeant and he was a really friendly guy, that I wanted to try harder because I didn't want to let him down because he was my friend, right? So I didn't want to let my friend down. I didn't want to be a screw up and be, having that person getting in trouble because of my screw ups or getting yelled at because of my screw ups or whatever. And if there was missions that he needed me to accomplish, I needed to make sure to get them done because I didn't want to let my friend down. So in that way, I feel like sometimes it can be good. So sometimes it can depend, but sometimes you have these sergeants that are super friendly. Sometimes they're your friend, or sometimes they're just have a friendly personality, and sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad. Leading from that one, there's the I'm not your friend sergeant, and that one's the one where they're just strictly all work. I'm not your friend, I'm not your buddy. Do this, do that, don't ask any questions. Also, can be good or bad, right? The professionalism side probably could possibly be good, right? They're just strictly hey, we want to get this mission done. I'm not your buddy, I'm not gonna joke around with you, I'm not gonna play around with you type of thing. I need you to go do this, and I need you to go knock it out. Sometimes it can be bad because it's, sometimes maybe bad, morale for the soldiers under that person. Maybe it's not giving them a lot of inspiration type of thing. So I guess it kind of depends on how extensive that I'm not your friend sergeant kind of is. I've had some sergeants that are like that, they're just they come around, they tell you got a mission to get done, they're supervising this or that, and they're not the type of person they want to kind of joke around with all the other Joes and everything. They just want to get the job done and make sure you're doing it right. They're just very serious and focused on the tasking. They're all into it of, hey, we gotta get this done, no fun and games, let's do this. There's the invisible sergeant. This is the sergeant that you barely see this individual. They come around, maybe they're at first formation, they're at PT formation, and then the rest of the day, you don't see them around. They maybe were there in the morning to tell you, hey, we gotta get this, this, and this done. Maybe they task some things out to other individuals or whatever, and then they disappear, and we have no idea where they went to. I've known some NCOs like this too, and sometimes, maybe it's a good reason. Maybe they got busier things to be doing, but sometimes it's because they're off chilling somewheres and shamming out, I guess. So sometimes it just depends on why they're missing, why they're invisible kind of a thing, as far as if it's a good NCO, bad NCO type of thing. But you end up with these individuals where, someone's like, hey, have you seen Sergeant so-and-so? You're like, nope, haven't seen him since PT. I have no idea where this person's at. Maybe they're hiding out in the office. Maybe they have other taskings to do, but sometimes you have these sergeants that are like ghosts. Everybody's heard about them. They don't know, they don't actually see that person around that often. Then there's the just another soldier sergeant. Sometimes these are new sergeants, sometimes they're just, just these certain type of personality sergeants, but these are the ones that are, really just want to do their job. Maybe they're really gung-ho about their job type of thing, or sometimes it's they're a new sergeant, they haven't kind of distinguished between being a regular Joe, E4 and below kind of, soldier, compared to being a leader, being a non-commissioned officer type of thing. So they're still just kind of keeping with doing their job type of thing. And sometimes this can be good or bad, because these sergeants are just really deep into their job, right? Sometimes sergeants have to be more of a leadership kind of role, supervisor type of role, more of, kind of a behind the scenes individual to really making sure that multiple things are getting done. But these individuals want to be knee deep in the job. So maybe it's like with my old MOS and 88 Mike, they're still loading the vehicles, they're driving the vehicles, they're busy in the motor pool, PMCS in the vehicles, all sorts of things. They're knee deep in the job and not really stepping back to supervise really. They just want to do the job and they want to be a part of it. Like I said, sometimes that can be great, but there's a fine line between if it's great and if it's bad, because if there are other things going on that NCO is also in charge of, and they're just so focused on this one task and wanting to do that task, and they're not also kind of keeping track of making sure this other task and this other task is getting done right, then that can be bad, because they're so knee deep in this one, and then by the time they go to check on this job, what's supposed to be happening, or these other tasks that are supposed to be happening, they realize it's not getting done correctly, now it has to be redone, all sorts of things. So it really just depends on the scenario sometimes, if this can be good or bad. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but you have to overall kind of have a good happy medium in between that. It's good to stay involved with the job and doing it. It motivates the soldiers sometimes if you're working alongside them, but if you're so focused on this one task and neglecting these other ones that you should be doing, then that can be bad. Then there's the micromanaging sergeant. I hate these kind of individuals. This sucks. You got a task to do, but you have to do it in an exact certain way, and they're just up in your crap, making sure that it's done the way that they want it done, which I'm not saying necessarily that's bad, but it can be bad. Examples of that, like you told me, hey, go load this truck, and we're loading some equipment onto that truck, but you're like really micromanaging how I get it loaded on the truck, what resources I'm using, how I'm going to strap it down, whatever kind of a thing. Then that gets really annoying. I can understand that like if someone's doing it wrong, right? But if I'm doing it in a way that is useful, it works, but it's not the way that you like to do it, then I hate that. That can be very, demotivating, kind of annoying, because, you want to get the experience yourself. You want to do the job. If I'm doing it wrong, sure, correct me so that way I make sure to do it right. But if I'm doing it in a way that works just fine, let me do it that way, right? You don't micromanage me to where you're making it to where basically I'm doing it the way you want to do it, but you don't want to do it, so I'm the one doing all the work of it, and you're just kind of making sure that I do it the same way you would have done it if you were the ones actually getting hands-on. You know what I mean? So this can be a little bit confusing, I guess, but a sergeant that micromanages and doesn't just let soldiers work can be very demotivating, can be very discouraging, right? If you give me a task, let me go do that task. And if I mess it up, correct me. But if I accomplish that task, don't get on me about, it has to be done this specific way that you want. Let me do it. Let me learn from it. Let me be able to do that task and accomplish that mission, hopefully. There's the I don't care sergeant. Maybe these are short-termers. Maybe they hate the Army for some reason. Something has gone on that's really discouraged them from the Army. They're in that leadership position and they just don't really care. They just want to get through the day. This can suck, they're ones that don't have a lot of, focus in the job. They're like, hey, platoon sergeant, first sergeant, whatever, said we gotta get this done, go get it done, guys. And then maybe they go disappear, so it kind of falls into that invisible sergeant one, or they're just kind of like sitting back, relaxing, almost seems like kind of lazy type of thing. And they're just like, I just wanna get this done. I wanna get this day over with and move on with my life kind of a thing. They really don't care how you're doing it, which can be good maybe in that way, but if that's also, they don't care if you're doing it wrong, then that can be kind of bad. So a lot of the ones I've seen in this kind of category are like short-termers, they've got that short-termer syndrome kind of a thing, maybe you've kind of heard of, where they only got maybe a year left in the Army, maybe 6 months left in the Army, whatever, so they really don't care. They're just trying to get through the day so they can hopefully get the hell out of the Army, or maybe they're mad at the Army about something. Maybe they got several years still left, but they're so mad at the Army, they're like, I don't really care. I'm just gonna do the bare minimum to not get in trouble, hopefully, and just try to get through the day. So they don't care about, motivating soldiers. They don't care about, helping them advance kind of a thing. They're just looking after themselves a lot of times. They don't care. They don't care what happens. Kind of the exact opposite of that is the backbone of the Army sergeant, right? That's part of the NCO creed. This is the NCO that is just all gun-ho, hooah, motivated, and hopefully probably even motivating the hell out of their soldiers. They're making sure that training is getting done. They're making sure that the soldiers are trained on their tasks and everything they need to do, and maybe leading by example and doing along with them. They're the ones that are, really into PT, so they're making sure that their soldiers are staying fit and everything. They're really looking after the soldiers, talking to them, getting to know them, knowing what their goals are, so that way they can hopefully help them achieve those goals. They're just really into the Army, possibly. They're the ones that are really living that NCO creed and really pushing to, make sure that their soldiers under them succeed. This is probably like the ideal sergeant you want to have. I mean, probably a few characteristics of some other ones, that you want to have too, and everything, but that's the NCO you want to have. You want to have the NCO that's, gun-ho about the NCO creed and really wants to see that soldiers that are under them succeed in the Army and get promoted and get education and get knowledge about their MOS and everything. So if you could probably pick one to be able to have, that's the one you want to have. That sergeant, that NCO that lives the Army values, that lives the NCO creed. I definitely won't say that was me in the Army kind of a thing, but maybe there's certain characteristics of that, but definitely not probably the full-blown kind of picture that you really want to have. Then there's the dictator sergeant, maybe an emphasis on the dick part, I guess, because these ones are the ones that kind of treat the soldiers as their minions, as if they are a ruler and my soldiers are here to do my bidding for me. That one sucks. I've had some NCOs like that, where they are kind of in that power position. Maybe they've gotten so used to the power. Maybe they've built up in rank. Maybe they're now an E7 kind of a thing. Maybe even E6s I've seen that are like this too, where they've been maybe they've been pushed around a lot when they were lower enlisted, and they're like, oh man, wait until I'm up there and I'm in charge. And they're really kind of like, using that. Maybe they had some trauma of being smoked a lot, of just having crappy NCOs, and now they've kind of taken that to heart when they get to that higher ranking, and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna treat these soldiers like shit too. Or they've just never been in a position of power like that, and it's gone to their head, and they're just like, holy crap, I have so much power, I'm gonna use this. NCOs that I've seen like this, where it's like, hey, you go do this, you go do that, get it done kind of a thing, and then they're off chilling somewheres, they're having a nice cup of coffee while they're watching you work really hard. They're all sorts of things. They're yelling at soldiers left and right because they're wanting to establish that power and everything. So this one is a bad one, definitely in my opinion. The dictator sergeant is a bad one. You don't want to have this sergeant. This sergeant is usually the one that people don't want to work for. It's demotivating showing up to work because you're like, oh crap, here comes Sergeant so-and-so, and now they're gonna be bossing us around. If we do anything that, you know, angers them, we're gonna have to suffer for it, kind of a thing. It almost feels like they're a drill sergeant in a way. I mean, that's kind of how they almost treat their platoon or their soldiers or whatever the case is, as if they're just a bunch of privates, regardless of their rank, and they're a drill sergeant almost in a way. One last one, and that is the by the book sergeant. Sometimes this can be good, sometimes it can be bad. It kind of depends on how they kind of come across, but this is the NCO that is super by the book. You know, you better be standing at a parade rest for me. You better be addressing me properly. You better be addressing that sergeant properly. You better be standing at a parade rest for that sergeant. You better be standing at attention for that lieutenant. That is stuff you're supposed to do, I guess, but sometimes it gets really annoying when they're like super by the book. I mean, there's times when it's like, hey, chill out, you know, let's just have a conversation, let's talk, right? And then there are times where, yeah, lock it up, get it attention, get a parade rest, all that kind of a thing. But this one is like that sergeant where it doesn't matter what the environment is, they are by the book, you better be this way or I'm gonna be on you. So it depends on how heavily by the book sergeant they are that can make it bad. If it's, you know, by the book sergeant but has a lot of other characteristics that I mentioned, then that can be fine, right? No worries with that, because yeah, you should be standing at parade rest when you're talking to NCO. You should be standing at attention when you're talking to an officer type of thing. But this NCO is more of the, it doesn't matter the circumstances, you must be in that kind of position. Because I feel like there are times where you gotta relax, right? To let that soldier open up to you, right? You're having a conversation about maybe some problems that soldier is having, then that's not the time they need to be locked up at parade rest while they're explaining some problems. They should be relaxing with you a little bit, opening up to you, that way you can find a way to correct their issues and hopefully make them a better soldier. And there's other moments too, where there's times when you can relax, not have to be locked up at parade rest, not have to be every other word is yes sergeant, no sergeant type of thing, you know, relax a little bit. So those are some different kind of examples of some different types of NCOs. Of course, leave me some comments down below of some other types of sergeants that you think you've seen out there, or maybe even tell me about some of these examples that maybe you've had. Which kind of one do you think you fall under? If you are an NCO out there or have been an NCO out there, which one do you think you fall in? If you fall in any of these in the first place, and if you fall in one that's maybe something different, then explain about it. There's a lot of different characteristics of these that kind of like add up to maybe the type of sergeant I was. I feel like definitely I was probably partially like a friendly type of sergeant. So, you know, I was like that one. I was partially maybe by the NCO creed, you know, the gun-ho type of sergeant that was, you know, the backbone of the army kind of category one, not fully, but certain characteristics. So there's a few little traits maybe from a couple of these that I feel like I was. I don't know if I'm exactly one of these, but maybe a combination of a few of them. Now, also to get you educated about like what a sergeant does, I actually have a video dedicated to that, and check this out right here to find out what does a sergeant actually do. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I'm Christopher Chaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya.